Starfighter 3000, the future of space combat, the future of something that we haven't even started yet, so this is way ahead of its time already. Now, how ahead of its time is it? Well, if we take a look in here, we can see that they're offering this snazzy little jacket for us. Exclusive Starfighter 3000 flight jacket offer, available in all of 2 sizes. Just write down all your personal details and credit card number and pop it in the post, and you can have one within a couple of weeks. What could possibly go wrong? You want to take a guess at what year Starfighter 3000 is set in? 3037. Now, that makes no sense to me. Like, imagine if those old Battlefield games were called Battlefield 1878 or something. It doesn't make any sense. Why not just name the game after the year it's set in, or set the game in the year it's named? They have complete creative control over both the setting and the title. So if they're both under their control, just match them up. I don't understand why they've mixed it up and made it 3037, but I guess I'm nitpicking there. The game was originally produced for the Acorn Archimedes, a fairly old series of PCs. It was late 80s, early 90s, fairly powerful for the time and quite expensive too. Believe it or not, that Acorn Archimedes version of the game has still been seeing updates at least as recently as January 2016, which is insane to think. It was originally released way back in 1994, and it's not like you hear people ever talk about Starfighter 3000 and its longevity and playing it in the modern day. This PlayStation version came along in 1996, a couple of years after the original release, but of course hasn't seen all of the updates since then. From what I'm aware, it's fairly stripped down, but that's about everything I know about the game. I've not seen it in action, beyond these screenshots on the back that I'm looking at now, which tells me it's a flight combat game, space sim, but also some stuff closer to ground, Earth. I don't know, it might not be set with the planet Earth in mind. I'm going into much depth into what I don't know already. Let's take a look at Starfighter 3000 and see how it holds up on the original PlayStation.
We are FedNet. The year is 3037, and we are now in control. This is a simulation run to provide test data.
Whatever I was expecting from the soundtrack, it certainly wasn't this. This is the intro cutscene we're watching when you first boot up the game, and it drags. It goes on and on. I'm thinking that it was maybe a graphical showcase for the time, but it's way too slow-paced, and they reuse shots constantly. Sometimes they're clearly slowed down or in reverse.
Fitted with 3 high-energy laser cannons and a battery of air-to-air missiles, it is capable of carrying up to 8 tactical fighters over long distances. Checking stabilizers. Initiating ignition sequence. Tracking lock engaged.
Oh my god, hurry up already. It really doesn't help that 90% of the time, absolutely nothing interesting is happening.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good luck, pilot.
Launch.
Tracking lock off. I'm in free flight, handling better than last time. Looks like I'm gonna need backup. Run launch sequence. Hazel 5, Callum 3, and Jake 9.
Time to check out the gameplay, and oh boy, that frame rate. Now, I'm going to be fair on the original developers of the game. They were not involved in the PlayStation and Saturn ports, which both saw a significant downgrade from the original version. But I really don't think we can blame the consoles either. Whoever's responsible for porting this over to the systems certainly didn't do a great job. We've all seen the PlayStation perform way better than this. With gameplay, what you see is what you get. It is a mission-based flight combat game, and fairly typical in that regards. The controls do suffer a little bit. Remember, this is pre-DualShock, so you don't have the analog sticks on the controller. This is just the D-pad, which isn't too bad when you're just slowly flying around, but once the fast-paced action starts coming along, which is the main point of most of the missions, it just ends up in complete chaos. You start to spin around all over the place, and you lose track of the orientation of your ship. When you tack on the visuals plus the poor frame rate, this actually started to make my eyes hurt on a big modern TV. Most of the mission objectives revolve around either destroying enemy ships or destroying enemy buildings. The map screen, which you can access at any time, is pretty useful for locating these objectives, but I'm seriously struggling to get very far. So there's a kind of homing missile weapon where you can lock onto the target and it'll automatically fire the missile at them. I only seem to destroy anything with this weapon. When I'm trying to use any of the others, I just can't lock onto an enemy for long enough to get enough hits in. Keeping steady and aiming at a moving target is an absolute nightmare. I wanted to get some footage of some later levels, so I tried to cheat, but for some reason they just don't work in this version of the game. Maybe that's a regional thing. This is the European version I'm playing, so maybe cheats only work in the North American version of the game, I don't really know. But luckily for us, the demo footage shows a pretty large variety of maps. So here's what the game could look like if you have more patience than I do. In the end, I'm going to blame this on a bad port. Trapped on this disc is a big game with a lot of variety, but if you can't enjoy it, then none of that really matters.
It is worth noting that this does support the analog joystick controller you can get on the original PlayStation. Now, they're pretty pricey, so I don't have one yet, but it may improve the experience quite drastically. It may be worth revisiting the game once I do have one in the future, but for now, not really worth anyone's time. I guess if you are intrigued by Starfighter 3000, there's the more up-to-date version out there. I've not tried it, you can take a look if you want, but for now, Starfighter 3000, best left on the shelf.